Hi everyone, welcome to this week's lecture about love, the many faces of love. We're going to be discussing some different aspects of love this week. Many people think that love is about finding a soulmate, which can be, well, I don't know. I'm curious what you folks think about that. Is our goal of love to find a soulmate? What do we mean when we say soulmate? And is that setting a bar maybe too high, in terms of folks who are looking for that person that they are perfectly compatible with in every way? Um, Looking for things like love at first sight, things that may not be realistic for all of us. In terms of love, marriages are not always made on the basis of romantic love. Romantic love was actually in the past seen as something dangerous. The Greeks, in particular, historically looked at romantic love as a dangerous thing because marriages in the past were more economic arrangements. If you were a man, you were looking for a wife who would have children for you to help continue working on farms or things like that, to help out with the family. If you were a woman, you were looking for a man who was stable and able to provide for a family. So a marriage based on love was actually seen as a dangerous, foolish thing because it ignored some of those other very important factors. So love being the basis of our relationship today, that is very much a modern invention that was not so in the past. And romantic love, when we talk about romantic love, we're talking about that passionate love, that feeling that you get when you want to be with the person all the time and you think about them all the time. Um, passion is an important part of love, but passionate love doesn't last over the long term. So we say romantic love can turn into companionate love, where over time our love settles down into a more companionate space, a more companionate place where we are comfortable being with one another, where we share our thoughts and ideas, where we feel secure in that relationship. But those feelings of passion may not be there quite as strongly. A soulmate is someone who is temperamentally suited to another. When you have that soulmate, it's that person who is your best friend, your confidant, your romantic partner. Again, where you feel like you are a perfect match in many different areas in terms of our personalities and our approach. Um, how we're going to define love, or how the text defines love, is saying that love is intimacy with, caring for, and commitment to another person. Passion doesn't necessarily come into that equation because we're talking about love, and love is something that we need to sustain over time for our most intimate relationships. And again, that passion, we're going to talk a little bit about passion. Comes from a chemical process that happens in our brains. And your brain cannot sustain those high levels of euphoria over time. So eventually, passionate love will start to die down. Some people interpret that as falling out of love with the person, not feeling that passion. And I think it depends on folks' relationships too. One of the goals of passionate romantic love is to continue with why can't I say this word right now? Revealing things about ourselves, sharing our innermost thoughts, our plans, our goals, our worries, our fears. Those things help to really cement that relationship so that once passionate love starts to die down, we have a solid foundation of that relationship and able to move forward towards a more companionate place. I'm not going to review this, love in other times and places. Certainly read this in the text. And I did talk a little bit about how in the past, passionate love was seen as a dangerous thing. Whereas right now, it is certainly our standard for relationships, and we feel if someone is not passionately in love, that they need to stay away from that relationship. You need to find that passion. In other countries today, arranged marriages are still very much part of the relationship marketplace. And to look a little bit, to take our wider view here and moving beyond what we consider to be natural and normal here in our culture. In cultures where arranged marriages are common, it's very much seen as it's obviously an acceptable practice, but it's seen as a beneficial thing. And I've actually talked to folks in my practice who have been in arranged marriages. And what they see is they talk about how nerve-wracking it was in the beginning, not knowing that person. But there are a lot of folks in arranged marriages who have been lucky enough to see love develop over time. So love is certainly part of arranged marriages, although it may not be there when the couple initially gets together, when they are married. Also, for folks who live in cultures that do practice arranged marriages, their argument is that young folks are more impulsive. Their decision making may not be their decision making may be flawed, because they're looking at things from a more passionate standpoint, or, looking at feelings and passion instead of looking at some of the realities of day-to-day life. And what folks will say is that there is no one that knows me better than my parents. Shouldn't they be the ones to see what is going to be best for me and make the best match possible for me? So again, we can look at arranged marriages, and from our culture, it's probably shocking to even imagine your parents coming home one day and saying, here's going to be the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. But it is very common and acceptable practice in other parts of the world. Romantic love. Again, romantic love is those passionate feelings that we have towards someone. And it is driven by sexual desire, that idea of looking at somebody and desiring them. So lust and sexual feelings do get wrapped up in that idea of romantic love. Which again is why in the past romantic love was seen as a more foolish thing. Because it was more driven by sexual desires as opposed to concrete, is this person a good provider? Will this person work hard, for the family? Is this a match that will help maintain family stability? Companionate love is, again, that intimacy, affection, and commitment toward another person. And this is seen as a more sustaining, long-term form of love. Friendship, love, when we talk about love, people often think about our most intimate relationships with our romantic partners. But we love, there's so many different people in our lives that we love. We love our friends, we love our children, our family members. And love for friendships is definitely a strong bond between friends. Folks who enjoy each other's company, they're willing to support and help one another. They share their feelings and experiences, and they feel free to be themselves. I have one very close friend who, she and I, match up on all of these criteria. We share everything with one another. We can be whoever we want to be. We don't have to feel like we have to pretend when we're with one another. And that's a really powerful friendship to have, that person that you feel like you can completely trust and share anything with them. And certainly my friend and I talk about our love for one another. And she'll often text me, I love you, see you later. And I find, that love is also very important between friendships. Again, we love our children. My girls are a huge part of my world. And my love for them pushes me to do lots of things for them. So when we talk about love, we're not just talking about our most intimate relationships in terms of our romantic relationships, but we're also talking about our friendships, our children, other family members that we are connected with. And, by the way, when I say intimate relationships, I don't mean just our romantic partners, because certainly our friends are the love that we feel for friends. Our friends are intimate relationships. Our children, that's an intimate relationship. Intimate doesn't mean sexual. It means, those people who are closest to us. In terms of same-sex love, we are starting to see a growing body of research around same-sex couples, although research for same-sex couples and same-sex families is still something that we need to get some more research around. We're seeing some studies coming out now, but this is an area where we definitely need more research around these relationships and their family units. What we do see, or what some research is starting to suggest, is that their relationships may be more enduring and stable, particularly for lesbian relationships compared to gay relationships. And we're not sure why they're necessarily. There are some, overall, same-sex relationships face a lot of the same challenges as any other relationship. Some additional pressures that our same-sex couples do face are discrimination, whether it's how society may view their relationship, or if they have family members who are struggling with their sexual orientation, they may deal with that additional facet of discrimination there in terms of their relationship. Same-sex couples also don't tend to fall into typical gender roles within their relationship. So we do see a lot more egalitarian partnerships among same-sex couples, which is definitely a benefit. But again, an area where we do need some more research. When we talk about the origins of love, biochemical theory looks at, again, that our biological processes, and it looks at hormones. Hormones that contribute to those feelings of passion, PEA particularly. They equate the hormones, the feeling that folks get when those hormones wash their brain, when they do feel that passionate love, they equate that to the same high people get from cocaine. And again, we can't sustain that over the long term. So passionate love, these chemicals will start to decrease. And it doesn't mean we're falling out of love, but it means that, we're not at that passionate level anymore. Attachment theory is another theory we have around love, where we look at our attachments to other folks. And what researchers did was look at infants' attachment styles to their parents. Secure attachments are folks who feel comfortable and secure within their relationships. Avoidant attachments are folks that are fearful, they're worried, they don't want to get too close to somebody, they keep people at a distance, and you can see how that may interfere with your intimate relationships. The other attachment style we have is anxious and ambivalent. This is often a style that we see from folks who are insecure, and so they're always worried about their relationships. Are we okay? Is everything all right? Are you upset with me? These people can come across as clingy, which can be overwhelming to the other partner in the relationship. Attachment theory is criticized because of the sample sizes. They looked at the fact that we're equating infants' attachment styles to adults within relationships. So there is some criticism of attachment theory. Wheel theory is one of our other theories, looking at the stages of love. Here we are. So wheel theory is seen as kind of a circle because it continues. We start off with rapport. Rapport is when we feel comfortable talking with someone. As a social worker, rapport is one of the first things I want to establish with somebody. Asking them some questions about their background, helping them to feel comfortable and safe kind of in that space, that we feel a connection that we can start to share. So rapport is the first part of our wheel of love when it comes to relationship. Then we move to self-revelation, where we start to share things about ourselves. And again, this happens with all of our relationships. I was recently away with a friend, somebody who I've been getting to know a little bit better over the past year or two, and we went away for an overnight together to the casino. And we spent a lot of time doing this self-revelation, kind of sharing stories about our backgrounds and our families and things that maybe happened in the past before we had known one another. And that does help to create a closer bond. After self-revelation, we move to mutual dependency. This is when you start to rely on one another, calling each other. You start to have that mutual dependence within the relationship. And then we move from there to intimacy, need, fulfillment, where we are more intimate with our partner and we see our needs being fulfilled mutually back and forth. And it's seen as a circle because it continues. As we continue to share rapport, we will continue to reveal things about ourselves and be vulnerable in our relationships. Continue with that dependency and move to intimacy, need, and fulfillment. Our other theory is our triangular theory, looking at three different aspects here of love: intimacy, passion, and commitment. When someone is in consummate love, maybe that idea of our soulmate, both people are equal in terms of their feelings of intimacy, decision, and passion. We have different combinations. If we have only intimacy, we like that person, but we may not be in love with them. Romantic love is when we have the intimacy with that passion involved. So you can look at those other things. We have our 6 styles of love here. The dark side of love is something that I'm not going to have time to review, but definitely review this in the text.